My name is Lily Whitaker. I'm 30 years old, and the night my family decided my future was worth less than cracked asphalt, nobody even tried to hide their laughter. The envelope landed in front of me like a dirty napkin. Across the table, another envelope had already been opened, and inside it was the deed to a luxury villa in Brentwood, Tennessee, with white columns, a gated driveway, and a backyard big enough to host weddings. Mine contained the title to an empty parking lot behind an abandoned print shop near downtown Nashville. 12 faded spaces, broken glass near the curb, a chain-link fence leaning like it was tired of standing. "You always said you liked simple things?" my mother said, smiling like she had just offered me a blessing. Then my brother raised his glass and laughed. "You can always sleep under the stars, Lily." Everyone at that table knew what he meant. He got the house, the pride, the family applause. I got a place where people dumped old tires. I looked at the papers, then at the faces waiting for me to cry, beg, or embarrass myself. But something inside me went very still. I signed the transfer form without shaking. "Thank you," I said. My brother laughed harder. My mother's smile tightened because she couldn't tell whether I had broken or begun planning. I walked out with the deed in my purse and humiliation burning under my skin. Years later, when they stood in front of the villa begging me not to change the locks, I handed them a rent contract and watched my mother freeze. Before I tell you what he said, and what happened after I walked out, tell me, what time is it for you right now, and where are you watching from? I'm curious to see how far this story will travel. I was not supposed to become dangerous. That was my family's first mistake. To them, I was still the quiet daughter who handled receipts, remembered birthdays, cleaned up after dinners, and swallowed disrespect with a polite smile. My brother, Jake Whitaker, was the golden child because he knew how to perform success. He drove cars he could barely afford, wore expensive watches, and spoke loudly enough that people mistook confidence for competence. My mother, Susan Whitaker, called him ambitious. When I worked 2 jobs and studied commercial property management at night, she called me stubborn. When Jake lost money in another investment, she called it courage. When I saved money and learned zoning codes, leases, insurance, and permits, she said I was too serious to attract blessings. That was how our family worked. Jake made mistakes and received protection. I made progress and received suspicion. But the parking lot was not worthless to me. It sat behind an abandoned print shop near downtown Nashville, only 3 blocks from a growing medical office district and a new apartment complex. Delivery vans already crowded the streets every morning. Contractors needed secure overnight parking. Small businesses needed storage without signing expensive warehouse leases. EV drivers needed charging spots. My family saw 12 broken parking spaces. I saw access, demand, and leverage. That night, I sat on the floor of my rented duplex with the deed spread in front of me. When my best friend, Sarah Coleman, arrived with takeout and saw the papers, she whispered, "They gave you a parking lot?" I wiped my face and said, "No, they gave me a foundation." Sarah opened her laptop without another word. We pulled property maps, tax records, permit files, and city planning notices. The lot had problems: bad drainage, cracked pavement, broken fencing, poor lighting. But problems could be priced. By 2 in the morning, we had a plan. First, secure the lot. Then clean it, install lighting, rent monthly spaces to contractors, place legal storage containers, and use the income to approach the retired owner of the print shop next door. Sarah leaned back and said, "That sounds slow for revenge." I looked at the deed again. "Good revenge is slow," I said. "Fast revenge makes noise. Slow revenge changes ownership." The next morning, my mother called to ask if I had calmed down enough to understand the lesson. I asked what lesson she meant. She sighed. "Your brother has an image to maintain. That villa suits him. You don't need much, Lily. You've always been practical. Practical. I had spent years confusing neglect with practicality. I had accepted smaller gifts, smaller apologies, smaller dreams, because they convinced me I was built to survive crumbs. You're right, I said. I am practical. That means I know an asset is only worthless to people who don't know how to use it. She went silent. I hung up before she found a way to make me small again. By the end of the week, I registered an LLC, Whitaker Yard Operations. I opened a business account with my savings, hired an inspector, and ordered an environmental assessment. The report came back better than expected. The land was neglected, not poisoned. I framed the first clean soil result and hung it above my desk. It was not pretty, but it was proof. From then on, proof became my obsession. Permits, quotes, letters of interest, a preliminary EV charging agreement, a signed parking contract from a plumbing company whose vans kept getting vandalized downtown. I did not need my family to believe in me. I needed paperwork, patience, and cash flow. Still, late at night, Jake's voice echoed in my head. You can always sleep under the stars. That sentence should have crushed me. Instead, it became a reminder. Stars were not shelter. Stars were witnesses. The first month nearly broke me financially. Every repair cost more than expected. The lighting contractor found old wiring that had to be removed. The city required drainage adjustments. The insurance quote made me wonder if revenge needed a richer budget. But Sarah kept saying, businesses don't fail because of fear. They fail when people refuse to adapt. So I adapted. I stopped trying to fix everything at once and divided the project into phases. Phase 1, security, lighting, partial resurfacing, 6 monthly parking spaces, and 2 legal storage containers. Phase 2, EV chargers. Phase 3, lease the abandoned print shop. Phase 4, convert it into small offices and weekend pickup space for local businesses. I named it the Ledger Yard because every square foot had to account for itself. No fantasy, no fake luxury. Every improvement had to create income, credibility, or leverage. When the first contractor signed a 6-month agreement, I nearly cried in the parking lot. The money was not huge, but it came from asphalt my family had called trash. That was when I understood something powerful. Humiliation can become capital if you refuse to spend it on self-pity. Jake noticed quickly. One afternoon, he drove by slowly in a black SUV. The next day, my insurance agent called because someone had reported unauthorized commercial storage. I had every permit. Then a city inspector arrived after a complaint about illegal dumping. The only dumped items were 3 bags of garbage someone had thrown over the fence the night before. Security footage showed a man in a hoodie unloading them from a truck. I could not prove it was Jake, but I recognized the truck. It belonged to one of his friends. Sarah wanted me to post the video. Not yet, I said. One video makes me look angry. A pattern makes me look right. That became my rule. Never react to one attack when you can document 10. Soon, fake reviews appeared online. A copied business page posted false prices. 2 contractors told me someone had claimed my property would be seized for unpaid taxes. Then my mother invited me to lunch, which should have warned me. She smiled too warmly and said, I hear you've been busy with that little lot. The Ledger Yard, I corrected. She waved her hand. Your brother thinks it could become part of a larger family portfolio. You'd still be involved naturally, but under his guidance. There it was. They laughed when I received it. Now they wanted control because it had started producing income. Jake can send a proposal in writing, I said. My mother's face hardened. Do not become arrogant over a parking lot, Lily. I smiled. I won't. I'll become accurate. Jake's proposal arrived 2 days later. He wanted 70% ownership of my LLC in exchange for management and his brand reputation. I printed it, highlighted the worst lines, and placed it in a folder labeled Exhibit A. Then I began building a private protection file. Fake reviews, complaints, inspection notices, screenshots, witness statements, everything. Sarah introduced me to Marcus Reed, a small business lawyer with a calm voice and sharp eyes. After reading the file, he said, "Your brother thinks intimidation is a strategy. It's not. It's a liability." His advice was simple: keep building, keep documenting, and don't warn Jake when he crosses the line. So I kept going. I negotiated with Harold Benton, the retired owner of the print shop. He did not want a developer to demolish the place. His late wife had run that shop with him for 37 years, and he wanted it used, not erased. I showed him my plan: offices for electricians, plumbers, mobile detailers, online sellers, and local makers who needed practical space. Harold studied the drawings and asked, "Your family know what you're doing?" "They know enough to be annoyed," I said. He laughed and offered me a lease option with a locked purchase price if I met renovation milestones. I signed immediately. That day, the parking lot stopped being a consolation prize. It became a weapon. The official launch of the Ledger Yard happened on a Saturday morning, and I refused to make it glamorous. No red carpet, no champagne, no fake luxury. I wanted work trucks, folding tables, coffee, signed leases, and local business owners who understood useful space. We had 8 contractors signed, 3 storage units rented, a mobile notary using 1 renovated office twice a week, 2 EV chargers active, and weekend pickup slots for small vendors. It was not beautiful like Jake's villa. It was useful, and usefulness has a beauty arrogant people rarely understand. Sarah managed the check-in table. Marcus stood near the office door, relaxed but watchful. Harold came in his old print shop jacket, and when he saw the restored sign inside the lobby, his eyes filled with tears. I had kept the original lettering and placed a plaque beneath it, built by people who believed work deserves a place to stand. For the first hour, everything went right. A local business reporter interviewed 2 contractors. A city council aide stopped by. Tenants brought their families. People were not just attending, they were signing up. Then Jake arrived with my mother. I felt the air shift before I saw them. Jake stepped out of his SUV in an expensive blazer and greeted people as though he owned the place. My mother wore cream silk, and the expression she used when she wanted strangers to think she had raised me kindly. "Great turnout," Jake said loudly. "Family project, you know." I walked toward him. "This isn't a family project." He laughed. "Don't be dramatic. You used the Whitaker name, didn't you?" My mother touched my arm. "Lily, don't make a scene." That sentence unlocked years of memories. Being told not to make a scene when Jake mocked me, took credit for my ideas, or broke things I loved. I removed her hand from my arm. "The only scene here is the one you brought." Then I saw his friend near the entrance filming me. Jake wanted a clip. He wanted me angry, trembling, unstable. Old Lily might have given it to him. New Lily understood witnesses, timing, and microphones. I stepped onto the small platform near the office door and nodded to Sarah. She connected my mic. "My brother is right about one thing," I said. The lot quieted. Jake looked pleased. "I was handed this property. It was described to me as worthless. I was laughed at for accepting it. I was told I could sleep under the stars. Then I spent months cleaning it, permitting it, insuring it, securing it, leasing it, and turning it into a working asset for local businesses." Sarah passed out a 1-page timeline: dates, permits, photos, lease agreements, before and after records. Not emotion. Evidence. I continued, "Because this is the Ledger Yard, we believe in records. We also believe small businesses deserve protection. So today, I'm announcing a tenant protection fund funded by opening revenue and matched by 2 local sponsors. The applause grew slowly, then firmly. Contractors clapped because they understood. Small vendors clapped because they knew what intimidation felt like. Jake tried to interrupt, but Marcus stepped forward and said quietly, "I wouldn't." Jake ignored him and started live streaming. "Look at this performance," he said. "My sister is using family property to make herself look like a hero." Then his friend made the mistake we had been waiting for. While filming, he tried to open one of the tenant storage units, probably hoping to create a fake safety issue. Denise Alvarez, a locksmith renting the unit, shouted. Security cameras caught everything. Marcus asked the man to leave. The man shoved him just enough to turn a family stunt into a documented trespass incident with witnesses. Jake stopped smiling. My mother went pale. We did not create a dramatic scene. Marcus took statements. Sarah saved video. The reporter asked Jake whether he encouraged unauthorized access to tenant property during a small business launch. Jake snapped, "This whole place is a scam." Denise stepped forward, furious. "A scam? This place keeps my tools safe. Do you know what it costs when someone like me loses tools? You don't, because you look like you've never fixed anything in your life." The crowd did not cheer wildly. They did something worse for Jake. They looked disgusted. Quietly, clearly, completely disgusted. My mother tried to pull him away, but Jake pointed at me. "You'll regret embarrassing me." I looked at the reporter's camera, then back at him. "No, Jake. I regretted believing you were untouchable." That clip spread farther than anything we could have planned. After the launch, business doubled in less than 3 weeks. Not because everyone loved drama, although drama certainly brought attention, but because attention led people to facts. The ledger yard was affordable, secure, and useful. Contractors referred other contractors. Online sellers rented pickup lockers. A courier company leased 5 overnight parking spaces. The EV chargers generated modest but steady income. The print shop offices filled faster than expected. For the first time in my life, I was not asking my family to see my value. My bank statements were doing it without raising their voice. Jake, meanwhile, was not handling public embarrassment well. His social circle had always rewarded confidence, not competence. Once people began questioning him, his charm started cracking. 2 clients paused deals with his real estate consulting firm after the launch video circulated. One investor backed out of a short-term rental project because Jake had failed to disclose debt tied to the Brentwood villa. I learned that last part by accident when a title company requested verification from one of my tenants, who happened to know the investor. At first, I ignored it. I did not want to build my future by staring into Jake's collapsing one, but Jake refused to leave me alone. He sent letters through a cheap attorney claiming I had misused inherited family property and owed him compensation for damage to the Whitaker reputation. Marcus read the letter and laughed so hard he had to take off his glasses. "This is not a lawsuit," he said. "This is a tantrum with letterhead." We responded once, professionally, requesting evidence. None came. Then my mother showed up at my office without an appointment. She looked smaller than usual, not physically, but socially. The pearls were gone. Her purse was clutched too tightly. I offered coffee. She refused, then accepted, then did not drink it. "You need to stop pushing your brother," she said. I sat behind my desk, stunned by the familiar unfairness of it. Jake attacked my business in public, but I was pushing him by surviving it. "I haven't contacted Jake. Your success is provoking him." I leaned back. "Then he should build something of his own and calm down." My mother's eyes flashed. "You don't understand the pressure he's under." "I understand more than you think." She looked toward the window, where 2 electricians were unloading equipment from a van. The villa has expenses, taxes, maintenance, loans. Your father would have wanted us to keep it in the family. My father had been dead for 9 years, and his name had become a tool my mother used whenever she wanted obedience wrapped in grief. Dad also would have wanted honesty, I said. Her face tightened. Don't lecture me about your father. Then don't use him to cover Jake's bills. That was the first time I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear. Not annoyance, not wounded pride. Fear that I knew something. I did not know enough yet, but fear is a map if you follow it carefully. After she left, I called Marcus. I need to understand the villa, I said. Not emotionally, financially. He referred me to a real estate analyst who pulled public records. The villa was not the clean gift my family had pretended it was. My mother had transferred it to Jake through a family trust amendment that looked suspiciously rushed. Jake had borrowed against it twice. There was a home equity line, a private bridge loan, and a mechanic's lien from renovations he had never fully paid for. The property looked luxurious from the road, but underneath, it was bleeding. Then came the document that changed everything. Harold Benton, of all people, mentioned that he had once printed legal packets for my father's attorney years ago. He remembered my father because they had talked about daughters. Your dad was proud of you, Harold said one evening as we reviewed office repairs. I froze. He said that? More than once. Said you had a head for numbers. My throat tightened. For years, my mother had implied my father viewed Jake as the heir to serious things and me as the sentimental one. Harold's memory cracked that story open. Marcus requested trust documents through a legal channel after inconsistencies appeared in the property transfer timeline. We discovered an older letter of intent from my father, not a formal will replacement, but enough to raise serious questions. It stated that major family property should be divided equitably or offset through other assets. My mother had not invented the inheritance, but she had curated it. She gave Jake the asset everyone admired and gave me the asset everyone mocked, assuming I would never know how to compare future value, debt, and liquidity. Once Jake's loans started tightening, I had a choice. I could sue immediately, drag everything into court, and spend years proving betrayal. Or I could do what the ledger yard had taught me to do: follow the leverage. One of Jake's private lenders wanted out. Quietly. The lender held a note secured indirectly through Jake's interest in the villa and was willing to sell at a discount because Jake had missed payments and become difficult. Marcus warned me that buying the note would be aggressive, legal, but aggressive. This is not about anger, he said. You need to be certain. I thought about that dinner, the envelope, the laughter. My mother's voice telling me I needed less. Jake's voice telling me to sleep under the stars. Then I thought about every tenant who paid on time because I had given them fair terms, every repair I had delayed in my own life to fix that lot. Every night I had stayed awake learning contracts while Jake slept in a villa he treated like a trophy. I'm certain, I said. I did not buy the villa. Not then. I bought the paper attached to Jake's arrogance. That was far more powerful. For months, I said nothing. Jake continued posting from the villa, pretending everything was fine. My mother continued acting as if I had wounded the family by refusing to be small. Behind the scenes, I worked with Marcus to enforce every obligation properly, legally, and quietly. When Jake defaulted again, notices went out. When he ignored them, consequences began. When he tried to refinance, the numbers exposed him. When he called my mother for help, she no longer had enough control to save him. And when the villa finally moved towards sale under pressure, I was ready. I did not attend the auction in person because I did not trust my face to remain calm. Marcus represented my company. Whitaker Yard Operations acquired the property through a clean legal process for less than its public image suggested, but more than its hidden condition deserved. The day Marcus called and said, "You own it," I sat alone in my office after everyone left. I expected triumph to feel loud. Instead, it felt quiet, like a lock turning. Jake found out 2 days before my mother did. He stormed into the ledger yard so fast that Denise, the locksmith, stepped out of her unit holding a wrench like a warning. "You stole my house," he shouted. I closed my laptop slowly. "No, Jake. I bought a distressed asset tied to unpaid obligations. You targeted me. You defaulted." His face turned red. "That house was Dad's legacy." I stood. "No. That house was your costume. You wore it until the debt underneath started showing." For a moment, I thought he might knock something off my desk, but Marcus had trained me well. The office camera was visible. The panic button was under the counter. 2 tenants were within earshot. Jake noticed all of it and swallowed his rage just enough to lower his voice. "Mom lives there part-time. You can't throw her out." That was the first time he mentioned our mother as a person instead of a shield. "I haven't thrown anyone out," I said. "A lease offer will be delivered." He stared at me. "A lease?" "Yes. Market rent? Reduced for 90 days to allow relocation or adjustment. Standard maintenance terms. No ownership claims. No interference with my business. No harassment." He laughed once, but it cracked halfway through. "You're insane." "No. I'm a landlord." The sentence hit him like cold water. For years, Jake had spoken the language of ownership without respecting the responsibilities behind it. Now he was hearing that language from me, and he could not stand it. My mother called that evening. She did not say hello. She said, "Tell me this isn't true." I looked out at the ledger yard, where the lights had just turned on across the parking spaces. Work vans gleamed under the security lamps. The old print shop sign glowed through the office window. "It's true," I said. "You bought our home?" "I bought a property that Jake lost control of." "How could you do this to your family?" That question almost made me laugh, but there was too much grief underneath it. "Which part, Mom? The paperwork? The consequences? Or the part where I learned from you that property decides who matters?" She began to cry, but I could hear the shape of the tears. They were not apology tears. They were panic tears. "Your brother made mistakes." "Yes." "He was under pressure." "So was I." "You don't know what it's like to protect a child." There it was again. A child. Singular. Not children. Jake was the child. I was the durable object in the room. The one who could be dropped and expected not to break. "You protected him from consequences," I said. "You protected yourself from guilt. You did not protect me from either of you." She went quiet. I wanted her to deny it. I wanted her to say she was sorry. I wanted, even then, the impossible version of my mother to arrive. But she only whispered, "What do you want?" "For once," I said. "A signature." The rent contract meeting happened at the villa 3 days later. I had not been inside since the dinner when Jake received it. The house looked the same from the outside, but closer up, the cracks were visible. The gate motor stuttered. The fountain was dry. Paint peeled near the side entrance. Luxury, I had learned, often survives as a photograph long after it fails as a system. My mother sat at the dining table, the same table where she had slid that envelope toward me. Jake stood by the window, arms crossed, refusing to sit like a child, refusing punishment. Marcus placed 3 copies of the lease on the table. I placed a pen beside them. My mother looked at the papers as though they were a weapon. "This is humiliating," she said. "No," I replied. "Humiliation is laughing while giving your daughter a parking lot because you think she'll never rise from it. This is a contract." Jake slammed his hand on the table. "You think this makes you better than us?" I looked at him for a long time. The old Lily would have argued, defended, explained. The new Lily understood that some people use explanations as rooms to trap you in. No, I said. It makes me the owner. My mother flinched. Jake stared at the lease. We deserve a share of whatever you made from that lot, he said suddenly, desperate enough to sound ridiculous. It came from family property. I opened my folder and slid a document across the table. It was his proposal from months earlier, the one demanding 70% of my company. You already told me what you think family property means. It means you control it, I work it, and Mom calls that fair. He did not touch the paper. That's different. It always is when you're losing. My mother's lips trembled. Lily, please. People will talk. I leaned forward. People already talked when you gave him a villa and me asphalt. You survived that just fine. She looked down. The room became painfully quiet. Outside the window, the lawn rolled green and perfect toward the fence. I remembered being younger, standing in rooms like this with a plate in my hand, listening to relatives ask Jake about his plans while asking me whether I was helping my mother clean up. I remembered thinking love was something you earned by being useful. The ledger yard had taught me that usefulness was valuable, but love that required erasing yourself was not love. Marcus cleared his throat gently. The lease terms are fair. Below market for the first 90 days. After that, standard rate. Refusal to sign means we proceed with notice according to Tennessee law. My mother looked at me one last time. Maybe she searched for weakness. Maybe she searched for the daughter who would rescue her from discomfort. That daughter had existed. She had carried too much for too long. I missed her sometimes, but I did not resurrect her. Sign the rent contract, I said. Mom froze. Jake whispered, You wouldn't. I picked up the pen and placed it directly in front of him. I already did. My mother signed first. Her hand shook so badly the S in Susan looked broken. Jake signed after her, pressing the pen so hard it nearly tore the paper. When it was done, Marcus collected the copies. I stood, but before leaving, I looked around the room one last time. I did not feel victorious in the way I had imagined. I felt free in a way that did not need applause. At the door, my mother said, Are you happy now? I turned back. No, I said honestly, but I'm no longer available to be your lesson in how little a daughter can accept. Then I walked out of the villa I owned and returned to the parking lot that had saved me. People love revenge stories because they imagine one perfect moment where the villain suffers and the hero finally smiles. But real revenge is rarely one moment. It is a series of choices nobody claps for at first. It is reading contracts while other people sleep. It is paying bills before buying comfort. It is documenting insults instead of screaming back. It is letting people underestimate you long enough that their confidence becomes evidence. My revenge did not begin when I bought the villa. It began the night I refused to beg for a better envelope. It began when I looked at that empty parking lot and decided their opinion was not an appraisal. The ledger yard grew beyond anything I expected. Within a year, we expanded into the full print shop building. We added secure tool cages, small offices, 2 more chargers, and a weekend business clinic where local entrepreneurs could learn basic leasing, invoicing, insurance, and permit skills. Sarah became operations director because loyalty deserves a title and a salary, not just gratitude. Harold visited every Friday, drank terrible vending machine coffee, and told anyone who would listen that his wife would have loved what we had done with the place. Denise the locksmith hired 2 apprentices, a landscaping crew that started with 1 rented parking space, eventually leased an office, and bought a second truck. The lot my family called worthless became a place where working people could stand a little taller. That mattered more than the villa. As for Jake and my mother, the rent contract changed them, but not in the magical way people hope for. Jake did not suddenly become humble. At first, he became angrier. He told relatives I had betrayed the family. He claimed I had manipulated legal technicalities. He called me cold, greedy, vindictive. But when people asked for details, the story collapsed under its own weight. So she paid the debts? One uncle asked him. So you signed a lease? A cousin said. So the parking lot wasn't worthless? Someone else added. That was the consequence Jake hated most. Not poverty, not rent, not embarrassment, but the loss of automatic belief. My mother tried softer methods. She sent old photos. She left voicemails about forgiveness. She asked whether we could have Sunday dinner, like before. But before had been a place where I disappeared politely. I told her we could meet with a family counselor if she wanted an honest conversation. She said counseling was unnecessary because we all know what happened. I agreed. That was exactly why counseling was necessary. She did not schedule it. For a while, that hurt. Healing does not erase the wish to be loved correctly. Even after everything, I sometimes wanted my mother to walk into my office, look around, and say, I was wrong. You built something extraordinary. But wanting an apology is not the same as needing one to live. That distinction saved me. I stopped making my future wait for people who benefited from my past. The villa remained under my company's ownership. After the 90-day reduced term ended, Jake moved out because he could not tolerate paying me market rent. My mother stayed 6 more months, then relocated to a smaller townhouse. She told people she wanted less upkeep. Maybe that was true. Maybe the house had become too full of consequences. I eventually leased the villa to a corporate relocation agency at a rate that covered maintenance, taxes, and created a scholarship fund at the Ledger Yard for women starting trade-based businesses after family financial abuse. I named it the Second Envelope Fund. Sarah cried when I told her. I did not cry until later, alone, because the name brought me back to that dining table. One envelope for Jake, one envelope for me. One future polished and praised. One future disguised as punishment. The lesson I learned is this. People can hand you disrespect, but they cannot decide what you build with it. Family can give you blood, history, and a last name, but they cannot demand permanent access to the parts of you they tried to destroy. Forgiveness, if it comes, should not require you to return to the role that wounded you. Success should not be reduced to proving people wrong, but sometimes proving them wrong is the bridge that gets you to proving yourself right. I no longer hate Jake. Hate is too expensive, and I have better investments now. I no longer chase my mother's approval. Approval from someone committed to misunderstanding you is just another unpaid invoice. What I have instead is peace with boundaries. I have work that matters. I have people who show up without needing ownership. I have a business built on the same asphalt they mocked. And every month, when rent clears from properties I manage, I remember the sound of their laughter and feel nothing but distance. If you are watching this while sitting inside a family that makes you feel small, listen carefully. Do not let their version of you become your blueprint. Do not confuse being overlooked with being empty. Sometimes the thing they throw away is the thing they never had the discipline to understand. Sometimes your parking lot is not a punishment. It is raw land. It is leverage. It is the first page of a contract they never expected you to write. And when the day comes when they ask for a share of what they once laughed at, you do not have to scream. You do not have to become cruel. You can simply place the papers on the table, look them in the eye, and let your boundaries speak in ink. So tell me in the comments, have you ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to believe in you? And if life handed you an empty parking lot today, what would you build on it?